everybody, and welcome back. Happy Friday. Hope you are all having a wonderful Friday, and hopefully you had a good week. I had a pretty good week. It was very quick, though. It feels like it was just Monday, and it is already Friday, so I guess time flies when you're having fun is the saying. But anyway, let me go ahead and give you a bit of a game plan for today's video because we do have a lot that we are going to talk about. So we're going to start off here talking about our current conditions like we normally do, and then we're going to move into this system that is going to impact a big swath of the eastern half of the country here going into this weekend and early next week. But what that does is sets the stage for an even more powerful system to move through in the middle of next week. And I think some people are really going to get clobbered by that system, producing a lot of snow for a lot of people. And we are going to break that down, talk about who I think gets that snow. And on the flip side of that coin, the severe weather threat is increasing with that system as well. So we're going to talk about who's going to get that severe weather, and it really could be quite the severe weather event for some of us. And then we will talk about the long range pattern. But with all that said, if you are new here, I haven't said this, but my name is Gerald. I am a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and I'd love for you to subscribe to our channel. We are doing some great things here, and we've seen some incredible growth over the past month or so. I just actually looked, I was looking through my channel earlier, and it has been about a month now that I've been uploading every day, so that's a pretty cool personal goal of mine to accomplish, and also just super cool to see how far this channel has come in only a month's time, and I know we're going to do some incredible things in the future. So if you haven't already subscribed, I'd love for you to do that. I don't want you to miss out on this super special thing that we are doing here. Other than that, I think that's all the housekeeping things, so let's go ahead and get right into it before I talk for 5 minutes just about myself, because I don't want to bore you all to death. So let's go ahead and look at the weather. Looking at our satellite right now, you can see we do have this low pressure system right over the four corners, almost like directly over it. And what that is going to do is cause the storm that will impact a lot of us here in the eastern half of the country over the weekend. So we are going to talk about that. That is going to produce a lot of rain here in the southeast and a lot of snow as well for some of us here into the northeast. So we are going to talk about that. Other than that, it's been quite a nice day out here throughout the east. It's been a really nice day on campus here walking around. Temperatures in the upper 50s and lower 60s has been super nice. And as much as I talk about how much I hate summertime and springtime weather in the winter, it has felt really nice. So if that's your kind of weather, hopefully you've enjoyed the past couple days. But that will change as we go ahead in time. But looking at our current hazards here, we do have some of those winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories here over sections of southeastern Colorado, western Kansas, and then those winter weather advisories as well into the four corners for that system, producing some light snow. We also have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings up into the northeast for what is left over of that backside snow that is currently moving off the coast there. And we talked about that a lot within the past couple days. So if you live up that way, let me know how much snow you saw or how much rain you saw if you saw rain. Be very interested to hear about that. There's some wind advisories up here into the Appalachian Mountains for some of those windier conditions. So going into tonight, a much more seasonable night here for January. You can see that freezing line crashing back further south compared to what we had been dealing with just a couple days ago. So much of North Carolina getting into those freezing temperatures. Tennessee seeing a lot of those 20s overnight. If you want to stay above freezing, you're going to have to go into South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, down here into the southeastern United States and sections of Texas. But of course, find your town, you can see what you can expect tonight for low temperatures. As for tomorrow, again, much more seasonable weather here throughout the eastern half of the country for January. So, again, find where you live and you can see what kind of temperatures to expect tomorrow. All right, so let's go ahead and break down this storm system coming up going into this weekend, and then we will talk about the next storm going into next week around the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. All right, so let's get into it. So we'll start here by looking at our GFS model, and then we'll go into the European. So Again, pretty good agreement here with this weekend storm. Rain looks to break out going into tomorrow afternoon and evening here across the southeast. And that rain will pick up and likely continue throughout the day Sunday. That's where I'd be worried about some flooding potentials here into the southeast. I think especially here into the Midlands of South Carolina, the Low Country, down here into the coastal plain of Georgia and North Carolina. Where I think some of these kind of heavier batches of rain will likely train over some of the same areas, so definitely watch out for that going into your Sunday afternoon. Also during Sunday afternoon here, you see that snow begins to break out into interior sections of the Northeast, and we'll get quite a good snowstorm out of this for a pretty big chunk of the interior Northeast. So unfortunately, rain for the I-95 corridor with this storm. Which I know is really a lot of the same old that we've seen so far this winter, but that looks to continue with this storm and likely even the next storm as well. But as we get into Sunday night here, you see that rain holding on here into the southeast, although beginning to lighten up and clear out, but that heavier precipitation then moves up the I-95 corridor, up through Philly, New Jersey, through New York City, seeing some heavy rain with this system going into Sunday night. And that's also when this heavier snow will pick up here into the ski country of the Northeast. Vermont, New Hampshire, I think we'll get a really nice thumping of snow out of this going into your Sunday night. And as we get into Monday morning here, you can see that low pressure begins to continues to strengthen as it moves offshore, and we get a nice little last-in thumping of snow here into Maine going into your Monday morning, and just some leftover showers here into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast from this system before we finally clear up going into Monday afternoon, having a pretty chilly kind of January day, although clearer than we will see over the weekend. All right, so that is the GFS for the storm. Looking at the Euro now, again, a lot of the same old. Rain breaking out Saturday night and continuing into Sunday into the southeast. Maybe a little bit of mixed precipitation here into the extreme high elevations of the Smokies. I wouldn't expect that to hold on forever, though, as that will likely change to rain pretty quickly. Going through Sunday here. Again, just a washout in the southeast on Sunday, but that snow begins to break out here into the interior Northeast as well Sunday afternoon. And you can see here that continues to ramp up. So I think the Bills game is in Buffalo, I want to say, Sunday, so maybe some snow there for the Bills game. We'll watch out for that. And then here on the Euro, a bit more precipitation to work with here on the snowier side of the system on the European. You see some of that snow breaking out going into Sunday evening into the interior Northeast with rain along the I-95, and then that continues going through Sunday night before eventually clearing up going into Monday afternoon, and especially by the time we get into Tuesday here along the eastern seaboard before we prepare for that next system. All right, so what does this mean in terms of totals for rain and snow? So looking at the rain here, again, this is where I'd be most worried about some of that flooding here into the Midlands and Low Country, South Carolina here into South Central Georgia. Could exceed 2 to 3 inches of rain there, so we'll definitely watch out for that, but nonetheless a washout throughout the southeast and even here along the I-95 for a pretty big chunk of time on the latter half of this weekend. In terms of snow, something I did want to show you here are the overall winter storm impacts here throughout the country with this system, and you can see some of those colors getting rather bright up here into the interior Northeast. Once you start getting into these oranges, that's whenever you really start to get problems here, although yellows will still cause problems nonetheless. So going to get a pretty good swath of snow here, here into southeastern Colorado, western Kansas with this, and then into the interior Northeast as well. All right, so in terms of actual totals themselves, I think those highest totals will definitely be up here into the higher terrains of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Definitely seeing a pretty good thumping of snow. Other than that, I think 3 to 5 inches is a pretty safe bet here through sections of New York, and then likely 1 to 3 inches here into northern and northwestern Pennsylvania out of this storm. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this next system after this one, which I think will be even more impactful and impact a wider array of places with even worse impacts than that first storm. So we'll actually start here with the we'll start with the GFS model here with this system and take a look at it. So pretty clear Tuesday for most of us here in the east, unless you are down here into the southern plains. So the GFS has really kind of caved to the Euro here with this system. The GFS didn't show nearly as much snow here into the southern plains. That has changed this afternoon. So we finally have that agreement between our models, so we can finally kind of start to pin down some of these impacts. So I really think we get quite the snowstorm here into sections of Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Maybe even a place like Oklahoma City, seeing some really nice snow out of this going into next Tuesday. That's another place that hasn't really seen that much snow so far this winter, so that will be nice to see it for you folks down there into the southern plains. And then what the GFS does here with this going into Tuesday afternoon, that's when we will have this severe weather threat here into the south and into the Dixie Alley area. This will be quite the dynamic system. I'll just tell you right now, we're going to have absolute just snow puking over here over Oklahoma, parts of Texas, maybe even Arkansas and Missouri, and at the same time could be dealing with a tornado threat here into sections of southern Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana next Tuesday. So as we go into Tuesday night here, that severe weather threat looks to calm down some there, but what begins to unfold is this shield of snow here, and a lot of the times we kind of talk about this banana kind of shape here on the northern side of these lows during the winter time that produce that snow. And this storm looks very similar as well to that kind of pattern we've been talking about. I think the St. Louis area here on the GFS looks like a pretty great place to be if you want to see some of that snow. And as we get into Tuesday overnight and into Wednesday morning here in the GFS, you're getting, again, a lot of this strong line of storms, I guess is the best way to word it here, pushing through the southeast, but on the north side getting potentially, honestly, near blizzard conditions. I wouldn't be surprised for isolated spots to get close to that criteria with this storm, because this thing will really be cranking here. We're getting sub 1,000 here. That could continue to strengthen as it pushes through the Midwest. So places like St. Louis, Springfield, Illinois, Indianapolis potentially, seeing some of that heavy snow, and you can see we go even further here into Wednesday afternoon. Then that snow gets going into sections of the northeast, and we still have that super heavy rainfall to the south into the southeast. But then this storm looks to move up through the Ohio River Valley, again producing heavy snow in places like Detroit potentially. And then it looks like, again, ski country here in the Northeast is going to luck out with this one. And rain, once again, unfortunately, for the I-95 has been the trend with this system. So this will then continue going into Thursday, as you can see, before eventually kind of letting up and clearing out with potentially another system behind that we will look at later on down the road. But this will be a very impactful system, and I know, unfortunately, we were looking at potentially this to ride up the East Coast, but it really looks like this is going to kind of move up in this general direction. But this will cause quite the impacts here into the Midwest and the Ohio River Valley, and this could really make up for some of those places that kind of complained during Christmas time whenever they didn't quite get as much snow as they thought they might have. I definitely think some places in here are going to get absolutely walloped by this thing. So that's the GFS. We'll take a look at the Euro now. Again, going into Tuesday afternoon here on the Euro, you're getting quite the winter storm here into the deep south parts of the plains here. And then with that severe weather threat potential here into extreme southern Dixie Alley. Going into our Wednesday morning here, or Tuesday overnight, that shield of snow continues to go over the Ohio River Valley. The Euro model a bit further south here compared to the GFS, but the GFS has been trending to the Euro, so I'd buy a bit more stock here in the Euro over the GFS with this system, as we often do, unfortunately. But once again, that snow begins to crank up, and look at this heavy band of snow going into your Wednesday here on the northern side of this low throughout Illinois, Indiana, parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania. And then, again, a lot of rain on the south side of this, unfortunately, but still that heavy band of snow here on the northern side of this. I think a place like Detroit could get a pretty good snowstorm out of this. And then once again, that looks to move up into the ski country of the Northeast with some heavy snow. And then, unfortunately, still just rain for us on the I-95. And then, again, we will watch for maybe a bit of a clipper system behind this system. So, going more in depth with this system, looking at that severe weather threat first here, Down here into Dixie Alley, you can see the Storm Prediction Center has already outlined this area that they think could see some of those severe storms on Wednesday. So here into southern Alabama, down towards New Orleans, southeastern Mississippi, even the Florida Panhandle in this risk. And we're going to talk about why we have that risk. So with this low pressure system cranking so much, it's going to bring so much what we call kinematic energy here into Dixie Alley. If you don't know what that means, that's pretty much the wind side of the severe threat. So to get severe storms, we need that instability as well as those dynamic winds and wind shear. So we're going to take a look at both of those components, and one of those components we are going to have plenty of, and the other one is still a bit of a question mark. So we'll talk about that here. So what I think we will have plenty of is this wind shear. This is going into Tuesday afternoon here. I mean, just look at this immense wind here in the atmosphere. Plenty to work with. And kind of, I don't want to say off the chart values, but more than enough to get tornadoes here into Dixie Alley. You can see that wind energy continues moving through, going into Tuesday overnight, and then moves through the Carolinas on Wednesday. Now, that's what we have plenty of. But the other side of that coin is we need instability. We need that cape, as we like to call it, to help produce these storms and allow them to grow and tap into that wind shear. So, try not to blink because you might miss it here, but this is Tuesday afternoon, and you can see this is what we have that big question mark on. We have the wind shear, but this cape is really struggling to grow here into Dixie Alley. So if trends go in the direction that bring this cape further up here into Dixie Alley, we will have big problems. I'll just tell you. That will not be good with that amount of wind shear. To get that overlap could cause some serious issues. But as of right now, it looks like we're very limited here in terms of instability going with this event. And we move this ahead into time, and you can see really not much of anything here to work with in terms of cape. But because of how much of that wind shear we have, we still have to watch for that threat nonetheless. And we'll watch those trends too to see if this trends towards more instability. And if it does, then we will definitely have big problems there into Dixie Alley going into next week. So what you're all probably more here for is the snow. So I'm going to show you two different maps here. This is the GEFS, so the GFS ensembles snow. So whenever you bring all those ensembles together, you combine them and you get that average snowfall prediction. You can see that swath of snow here from Oklahoma up through St. Louis, Indiana, Ohio, and up here into the Northeast with this system. So that's the GFS here, and again, some of these places, 6 to 12 inches. You're going to get a big swath of half a foot to a foot of snow here through this region. And I feel pretty confident in that. That's the GFS. We'll look at the Euro now, and let's see if we spot some similarities. A lot, as you can tell. So we're starting to get into that agreement between our models. Sorry, let me back that back up to where we were at. So this will begin as soon as within the next 100 hours or so here into Texas and Oklahoma. We'll get that snow to fall. So a pretty nice snowstorm there for those areas. And then we'll continue to see the swath of snow here on the Euro as well, up through the Ohio River Valley and into the ski country of the Northeast. So again, I think a pretty big swath of half a foot to a foot of snow through here, and then higher higher numbers as we get into the higher terrain there into the Northeast with this storm. So that's this storm. Let's go ahead and look long range and see what we can expect here going further down the line. So we'll get through these two storms here, and you can see on the back side of that storm, we're likely going to get some cooler temperatures to work their way in here to the eastern half of the United States, and even get some below average temperatures here for what we would normally expect this time of year. So that's what those blues kind of indicate there here with the GFS. And as we bring this even further ahead into time, you can see those blues kind of get trapped up into Canada a little bit once we get past day 7-ish. And then unfortunately, once we get past day 10, you can see this very pesky southeast ridge, which we've been talking about. And we kind of all have thought would work its way back into the picture here. Looks like it will try to do that going past day 10. So what does this mean in terms of temperatures for the GFS ensembles? Again, once we get past this first storm, you can see these blues kind of lock in a little bit more here into the eastern half of the United States. Nothing crazy below average, but nonetheless still below average temperatures for January. And then it looks like After that, those blues kind of hang around a bit, but those coldest temperatures look to get kind of trapped up here into the northern plains, as maybe even a bit of that polar vortex, as we like to call it, tries to work its way there into the northern United States. And then after that, it looks like you get quite the battle here between that southeast ridge bringing in those warmer temperatures and that cold Canadian air bringing in those cooler temperatures past day 10. And then just to show you, that continues going out pretty far into the long range and into early February. So, looking at the same thing with the Euro here, these are our storms here in blue, and again, behind that, we get that cooler weather, more January-like. But once again, here in the Euro, it shows that southeast ridge building back in and hanging around for a while, going into the 10 to 15 day time period. So just to show you those temperatures as well here on the Euro, you can see these are those, let me find, yeah, there we go. These are those blues that we kind of see trying to hang around a little bit after that after that storm in the middle of next week, if I could catch my words. But then going into long range, those blues that you see there kind of begin to fade out, and we once again have to kind of battle between that southeast ridge and this cold Canadian air. So what I will say is, you can see this blue is still hanging around pretty far here into the east and south. So it's going to be a really close call. I think some areas are going to be well below average for a while very smaller sections of the country are going to get kind of stuck into that warmer pattern. But what that does mean is we will likely continue this active storm track. So if we get this blue to just shift a little further south and we continue this active storm track, we can still get some of those winter weather chances here into the southeast. But right now, I would still favor a bit of a warmer pattern through at least the end of January. We'll see if that changes going into February. With all that said, though, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe because we're doing some really incredible things here, and we have a lot planned in the coming months. Also, let me know where you're watching from. If you're there into the Midwest, you might get lucky here going into the middle of next week with quite the snowstorm. And we're also watching that severe weather threat into Dixie Alley. But hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Friday, and I will see you all tomorrow.